So I was affiliated kind of with this group right from the start, and that was in 2001. For the first 10 years, I just relied on them for suggestions on what I needed to do to grow my practice, where we would talk business and numbers, growth of the practice. We would also talk, sometimes we'd do clinical things. We would talk about managing our practices and our employees, and kind of just best practices. What are we doing in our offices? What could we improve? And talk about new ideas that people had. So I would do that once a month. I did that probably for 8 to 10 years. And then, a few years back, my practice was fairly mature, and I had started a couple more practices in Cache Valley. And I had, Synergize help with that, help me get them up and running. And so as far as like setting up just a lot of the business things that had to be done and making sure that I had all the right merchant accounts. And I mostly did my own hiring. They offer those services, but I'm far enough away. I've kind of done my own hiring for the most part, okay. But they've helped me a lot with keeping track of my numbers, of course, payroll, new employee handbook, employee benefits and management of those benefits and that kind of stuff. So anyway, then over the last 5 to 7 years, I haven't started any new practices. Well, I have started one. I purchased one, but so the last 5 to 7 years, mostly they've helped me with making sure that my bills all get paid and that they look like they should have, that they look accurate, and all the payroll and employee stuff. And then when I did purchase a practice about 4 years ago with Synergize's help, they were involved in looking at the numbers. I called Dr. Craven and asked him, if he thought it was a good idea to buy it. And I asked him to help me negotiate the best lease we could and just a few things like that. Now, at this point, I don't have a ton of contact with them. They did come up and do a training for some of our employees on communicating on the phone. We paid them to come up, and we got a few of our front desk people involved, and they're working on their skills on the phone and trying to, get people to schedule and communicate what we want to be communicated. So that's the most recent thing we've done. This newest practice that we bought really needs to get more new patient flow. And so Rob at Synergize was helping me. We were brainstorming. We actually made a banner that we want to put out front just to try to get a little more notice, because the practice is in a good location, but it doesn't have good signage. Yeah, I had called them and said, what can we do to improve the new patient flow here? And so, yeah, they'll, if I'm just trying to figure out how to grow my practice or improve something, I can usually call them, and they have a lot of experience, so they usually have good ideas. And I think they keep an eye on the numbers a little bit too. And so they'll say, hey, we noticed this. I had a partner retire. So Synergize had said, we noticed this practice isn't doing as well this year as it has in the past. What's going on? So they also keep an eye on things. And if they feel like there's a problem, I think they'll too. It's not always me calling them asking for help. Sometimes they'll notice something and say, hey, what's going on here? But Synergize, they do save us money. For example, I just bought a new implant surgical kit and a bunch of implants. And I was talking to the rep about what kind of discounts were available. And I asked him, I said, do you have like group discounts? Because I'm part of Synergize. And anyway, he went and looked into it, and they did have a group discount for Synergize already. It saved me an additional 15%. So, it saved me about $700 just by mentioning that I was part of that group. Too, I've called and said, hey, I'm having this issue. Are there any other practices in our group that have had this issue, and what did they do? For example, I called down and said, I'm thinking about doing a different retirement plan. What kind of retirement plans do some of our other offices do? And another one that just pops in mind, they'll do fee schedule comparisons for us. Here's how much everyone where we're tied together as a group. We keep it anonymous, but it's like, okay, these are 12 practices within our group, and here's how much they pay their employees on average, and here's how much they pay their front desk and their hygienists and their assistants, and here's how much an average practice in our group, spends or charges for certain dental procedures. So that gives me good information to try to make sure that I'm not too high or too low, that I'm good in a good range there.